Can you explain your inspiration for the project and how it works, how it all comes together?
Yeah, I think the inspiration part of it comes from just fascination with doing something in mono. I always am fascinated with formats and different creative constraints, I guess. And specifically mono kind of came out of the kind of lifelong wonderment around how people with one functioning ear hear music. My brother has only hears out of his left ear. I was always wondered how it sounds to him to listen to a record, and he's got great taste in music and will recommend music. And I'm just interested in how it's different for him and different for people that just hear the world differently, as we all do. But it's nice to think about that, for me, to think about how it's a perspective thing. So I think the idea of doing a record in mono came from that, and then as I kind of started thinking more about that idea of mono, I guess, duality versus unity, plurality, all of the ideas kind of started to come from that, and the way that it seems like humans have a tendency to want to think about the world in one particular way, or think about binary concepts, good and evil, black and white, etc., male, female, whereas it's often quite a lot more complex than that. And so, there's something that, I get very inspired by just conceptual stuff, and so that's where that came from. And then I tend to do my storytelling within a framework, and so that's kind of where the lyrics came in, and where the concept around the content came from that kind of more conceptual place. Yeah, that's it. And then cool. I guess you kind of asked about where it's going as well. The record will exist in the form of an installation piece that will be at the Halifax Central Library for a time, where it'll be a centralized location where people can come and basically put on headphones, listen to this record, which exists in 3 different layers, so 3 distinct records that can be played simultaneously. And the idea that not only are we kind of exploring concepts of a spectrum of experience, but also the fact that there are these kind of parallel or superimposed worlds. So 3 records that each can be listened to on their own, or can be stacked on top of each other and listened to simultaneously in any combination of the 3. And that'll be the installation piece, where people will be able to kind of experience that and play with it themselves in real time, as an interactive thing. So that's where it's going.
So many things in one. Okay. That kind of leads me to another question, which is, you mentioned this, the installation of being able to listen to three things at your choosing. I'm just curious, I think you also mentioned something about there being an inaugural performance or something like that. I'm just curious how you imagine the installation aspect of this piece to manifest in the concrete world.
Well, so I'm working with a fabricator right now in Nova Scotia who's going to build a thing that will be a physical object that will basically house some electronics. The album will be on infinite repeat inside this box, and people will be able to put on a pair of headphones and mix the 3 different records together or apart as they wish. So yeah, so the idea is that it'll be in a central place. There'll be some information about it. You can read about it, or kind of check out the concept if you want, or you can just walk up to it and put on headphones and start listening. Yeah, so that's basically how the installation is going to work. And yeah, it's pretty exciting working with someone in this area. I haven't really worked in this area before, and it's fun to think about, like often as artists we talk about like, the strange like state of the world where it's like hard to manufacture physical things that make sound, like, merch, CDs, like physical media. It's a weird time now where streaming is the thing, but streaming is so ephemeral and also just so content based, and like it's just like the value structure is so different now than it used to be, and is maybe not good in some ways. And so like the opportunity to make something concrete is really exciting. So I've released things on tape, like cassette tape, vinyl. I'm super excited that I like Friendly Rich Marsala asked me to do a thing like on wax cylinder for a person. So there's a wax cylinder that's like traveling around the world being like played. Like that kind of stuff really fascinates me. So the idea of like having a wooden box that is making, noise through headphones is exciting to me. Give people like a chance to actually interact with a thing in real life and have an experience with it. Not just in passing, maybe one of the songs happens to be on a playlist or something, and maybe someone likes it or not, or an algorithm picks it up or whatever. It's like, no, you have to walk over to this box, check it out, etc. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. I'm going to ask you 6 questions, if you don't mind, because I can't decide which. So you talked about three separate layers, 3 separate, almost, I think maybe even in the write-up you mentioned characters. I'm wondering if these characters, if they're predetermined, and how were each of them conceived as kind of unique entities?
Yeah.
And maybe their relationship too, if that's.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm thinking of them less as like anthropomorphic characters, as and maybe that's the language that I used to kind of describe things, but more like character, so that each of them has its own, kind of way of being. So thinking about opacity, translucence, yeah, and like basically a kaleidoscopic character, and just the way that like again, like all 3 of the layers are part of the same bigger thing, but they each show a different aspect of these songs. So one song might feature some very concrete, opaque, thick, blocky, rooted sounds, and then another layer may be expressing the same musical material but in a very light, translucent way, and then another one might be kind of somehow a reflection of those 2 things, or a wildly changing character. And just kind of like exploring how each of these 3 streams can like intermingle, and how they can be telling the same story but in different ways, or how they can be telling different aspects of the same story. So that's kind of where the character comes in, and thinking about like, obviously there's lots of tie-in and like idea of analogy with humans and how we interact. And some of us are maybe, have a particular like a default character or something, but then we express ourselves in different ways. Some of us express anxiety in a particular way, and others express anxiety. Maybe some of us like get more aggressive when we're anxious, or some of us get quieter, or the ways that like these different albums can kind of like have a root and then branch off into these different directions, and how those branches can intertwine. So it's still early enough in the process that it's like I'm learning all of these things and playing with all the ideas, but it's been exciting to see what's coming out.
Cool. That leads me to another question, which is, has creating this project taught you anything new or brought new awareness or insights. One word in particular that's coming to me with regards to how you've described it is maybe even with perception, but maybe it's more open than that.
Yeah, definitely. I think every new thing that we do teaches us things if we're open to it, and that's definitely the case here. I mean, I like doing big projects that have a top-down kind of concept that ties everything together, and so this is no different in some respects. And so in some ways, I just do the thing that I do with big projects, and I like get organized, and I figure out like the workflow and all that stuff. But like the particular creative constraints of this have been really fun to deal with, and I know will be really challenging and also probably rewarding in some ways. Like just working in mono is different than working in stereo as a recording and mixing engineer. And like for sure recording 3 different records with 3 different bands in 3 different studios of ostensibly the same type of material or same, base material, but expressing different parts of it, and thinking about how each of those things can stand on its own, but also be a part of a bigger whole. Even just from a technical perspective, that's like challenging, and it's been really good for me to start hearing like what is the least amount of information that I can, it's like a line drawing or something. What's the fewest number of lines I can draw to convey the shape of this thing. And so there's going to be a lot of that, a lot of sculpting and carving away of things to hopefully leave something that feels balanced, compelling enough on its own, but that also nests nicely within this larger world. So yeah, tons of lessons, like a lot of new things for me in this, which is fun.
What has been your favorite part of the project so far?
Favorite part? My favorite, I love things like, I like getting together with humans. I love buying snacks for the band. Being in the grocery store, like the session, the day of the session or whatever, and I'm like, all right, this person's vegetarian. This person, doesn't eat dairy. And going around and just kind of like filling a basket. That's a really exciting, fun thing for me. Also like the feeling of stacking sheet music. Like having printed so much stuff and just preparing things and having that like ready to go. It's so satisfying. And like the other thing that I love in, it's just like just for me, it's like Christmas every time I get to like have recorded music that's like my music somehow. And then a couple days go by or over a week, and then I get to open the session and like, what did we even do? Like, what did we even record? So many things happened, and then it's like opening Christmas presents. Like, oh, what a generous thing that this person gave to the project, that they did this thing with vibrato, and like, that's such a sweet thing that only they would think to do in that moment. And like, so it's like opening presents. That's my favorite part always.
Okay, last question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you hope that people might experience or be impacted by this project?
I think, like, in a sense, that's up to them. But maybe something that I really value in art in general, and that I think is reflected in the way I like to make things, is that moments where maybe we become aware of a different way of looking at or seeing the world, or things that have been there all along that we've never noticed, or some kind of like, hidden energy or a current that's underneath things that you can just tap into. So I think with something like this, a fun thing for me is just like really dealing with that concept in a almost like an on the nose kind of a way, where you can be listening to the record and then you can like peel away this whole layer of stuff from the center, and then have just like the fragment, the artifact kind of stuff that's here, and then, or you can have like only this boxy concrete version of the thing that feels packaged and tight and punchy, and have none of the other stuff. But like just the idea that you can kind of start to like zoom in and pull this thing apart. I hope that gives, you know, people just like ideas and feelings around the world being this place of multiplicity and multidimensionality and just the kaleidoscopic nature of reality that's around us at all times.